I'm in a good mood today. I'm in a good mood. Welcome to the show. How's it going, everyone? We got a laser shooting out. I picked this background. It kind of pops off the t-shirt a little bit. I like that. Yeah. Welcome to the end of the world, the end of the number of HEX tokens. Are we running out? Why is that? A lot of great questions going on and chatter around HEXCO, around the different stats and interesting and hopefully metrics that contribute to number go up. Maybe, I don't know, we can talk about if liquidity go down and demand go up. How does that work too? A lot of fun discussions we'll get into here. Got some cool tweets to talk about too. Got some statisticians, some people who like to look at the numbers as well. And we even got Shill Gates on the show today. So very excited to get everyone in. Should be a banger. We'll go for about an hour or so. Key stuff, get your questions in. We'll answer as many as we can. Without further ado, welcome back to the show. Shill Gates, Crypto Kong, and DJ Khaled on crypto. Just Khaled today. How's it going, gents?
Let's go. What's up?
Yeah. What's going on, guys? Thank you for having me.
Of course, you're back. If y'all missed the show, the great, what was the name of that show we talked about? Oh, man, I can't remember the name of it. I just come up with these names sometimes, and then we go off. We usually stay on that topic, or we like deviate some too. I can't remember the name of the show. Anyways, look back a couple weeks ago. I had Khaled on for the first time. That was a really good show. Of course, Kong's a regular around here. He's been on about 15, 25 times, 369 at some point, maybe. We don't know. And Shield back for the second time. So he must have not screwed up the first time. That's why he's.
I know. You guys were my first stream. My first PulseChain stream.
That's awesome, man. It just kind of happened because you were, I think I just on one of the threads, I was like, I didn't know you at the time. I was just like, new person in the community. I'll just invite him, see what happens. And you responded. And I'm like, oh, okay, I guess we're going to do this then. I'll invite him to the one with Kong and Zenith. So, that was fun. Turned into a great show.
No, I love this stuff. I love networking. I love community. And I love just having like these deep conversations between a bunch of people that have like a firm grasp of what's going on in crypto.
Yes. Yeah, as you might have seen by now, and you've been on a few different shows and stuff, but there are a lot of people dedicating their time and energy to the space, even with number not go up from time to time. So if nothing else, I feel like that's pretty meaningful. When I look around, I see Coffee making 50 videos about whatever's going on, and these guys streaming and stuff as well. And every week you got tons and tons of content coming out of the community. And it's almost like we believe in something. Yeah, right? It's almost like, hey, let's see if this thing works.
Well, yeah, I mean, I feel like this is one of the most dedicated communities that I've ever encountered, and it's also one of the more intelligent communities because, like, most of the people that I talk to aren't up right now. Like, the numbers not going up, and they're just putting their head down and continuing to build and have faith. So, like, the conviction and the dedication to me is what's most impressive about PulseChain.
I think that's like the cult like community, right? Like I think we have the strongest community, right? Like even if I think people see the vision, right? And maybe that's not everyone. I think you have sellers in every market, right? But I think probably like if you were to say like per capita or something like that, I think a lot of the people within the RH ecosystem, they see the video. I think I saw, and I wish I bookmarked the tweet, but I saw, I think it was, Sami reposted a tweet. I think it was Crypto Girly or some, I forget the username, but she was talking about pretty much all the bullish news with the new lawyers, or with Trump's kind of, I think one of his appointed lawyers is now
an advisor
same one that Richard is using. Yeah, something like that. I think.
Yeah, he's Trump's key advisor on ethics now.
And I think that's the same as Richard's lawyer, correct? And I think there's more. I think there's more bullish news and more bullish kind of comparisons surrounding a lot of Richard's teams and kind of relative to the new administration and kind of even previous SEC workers as well. You had, I think Richard has a few guys on his team that even used to work at the SEC, and I think a lot of people know that in the community, but it's a good point to bring up because think about it, right? Like if you worked, let's say you worked at a company or you worked at a certain place, right? I think it was that video right there, Max. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, that one's I recommend posting that one in the chat because she pulls up pretty great talking points just surrounding like it's not immediately obvious, right? You see all the FUD articles surrounding, oh, Richard this, Richard that, Richard, this and that, and then yeah, even I think I was reading the wrong tweet. That's a good tweet as well. And I was looking at I didn't know this before, but Richard Hart's main dev was also and has been contacted by the Trump administration and stuff, and that was brought up in the kind of a Twitter short as well, which I thought I didn't know that before, and I thought that was pretty interesting. So again, guys, like I don't know what's gonna happen. I don't know if anybody really knows what's gonna happen, but there's just a lot of good points that are being brought out there, and they're not surface layer, right? Like if you I think I saw the post even with the Cardano founder talking about, I think it was, I don't exactly know why, and I try not to pay attention to a lot of like the drama and stuff, to be honest with you, but I know there was some controversy surrounding I think he's talking about like some sort of like civil versus like
He
criminal matter
conflated the
versus
two.
yeah, exactly,
He
right?
conflated the Interpol thing with the SEC thing and was trying to make it seem like Richard Hart has criminal charges stemming from the United States.
Thank you. And I think that was the I think that was like the projection that was kind of brought out by Charles, right? Which isn't totally correct, right? And when you have some kind of, I'll say, a spokesperson, which I don't know if that's the correct word, but he is a founder of a kind of a, I would say, kind of a top cryptocurrency, right? Relatively speaking. So yeah, very, very interesting, right? When you hear that like surface layer, like, yeah, FUD, let's, sell all of our tokens. But really when you're in the community, when you've done the research, like you can look at like there's actually a lot of bullish kind of news and a lot of bullish kind of points that are being brought up, and you kind of do have to pay attention a little bit, right? Like, but I mean, I think it's all there. So yeah, I'll say that.
The billionaire triangle. I like that.
That's what I was gonna say. Like I privately, I told somebody, I said these people are in a very small club, right? Like leaving Musk out, like because they have the same lawyer, right? But Trump and Richard is an alleged billionaire, and there's very few billionaires in the world, so they belong to this elite club. And one would think with all these connections of the lawyer and stuff like that, that there's a very high possibility that they either have had discussions or will have discussions in the future.
Yeah, and to add to that, by the way, in terms of just like generally how, I think we're going to see a turn in the tide. We've seen cases like Coinbase. They had an SEC lawsuit that got paused recently. That kind of gives more confidence as well. We also had Tornado Cash recently winning the appeal where they had sanctions against themselves from the SEC. And again, this further shows that I think we're going to see, the fact that Gary Gensler is leaving. It's going to be replaced with a pro-crypto chairman of the SEC. I am very confident with the whole thing that's going on right now. And as you mentioned, like I actually didn't know the connections between Richard Hart and Donald Trump. I knew about the same lawyers with that Elon Musk used when he had his SEC case as well. So this is pretty cool, man. Very bullish stuff.
It's exciting.
And if you're interested in long form written content about the HEX Cult, I dropped the link in the chat as well. I've written, every once in a while, I'll write blogs about various topics, Scivive, validators, different stuff about HEX. I've written different security stuff and stuff as well. I do have a blog. Not many people know about rhmax.org/blog. And I talk about the cult, and it doesn't matter. And then I kind of do some interesting perspective and put my 2 cents on it too. So
you are just constantly working, huh? Like every time I go to try to research something, I come across some of your content on it.
Thank you. I do put in, I don't know, it's inspiring. It's like, how could I not put in the time and energy for this place? Like you look around, yeah, there's drama here and there, but it's like there's so much to do. There's so much to make a contribution with. Like it's pretty cool. And yeah, it's Hexentino. Hello there. It seems like we're the only people alive right now. Everyone else is crying. it kind of like part of that too. It's like, yeah, like what, I can wait, right? Like I don't need green candles in January 2025. I can wait. We all been waiting. We're all here again, aligned towards this common goal of glory and all that stuff too. So yeah, it is kind of a superpower to be in this ecosystem during the times when the rest of crypto is just like, trying to figure out what to do.
Delayed gratification.
Yeah. The eighth wonder of the world, some people say.
Don't be short-term price oriented. Exactly.
Fast Abdul, I'm here for the tech. He usually is.
I actually believe him. It's weird.
There's a lot of tech. I mean, there's a ton of, I did a tweet the other day about there's 200 plus projects people have been building in the bear, into the bull, and whatever we're in, the kind of environment we're in now. People just keep building. I don't hear anyone saying, I'm going to stop building on PulseChain. Have you all heard of anyone say, I'm just not going to build on PulseChain anymore. I'm going to deprecate my product in PulseChain. I'm going to take the server offline. I'm just not going to promote. Like, you just don't hear it, right?
I don't know how there's not more people recognizing the opportunity here from a building standpoint. Like, you have the layer one of Ethereum, battle tested, all that, and it's wide open right now. There are so many things that are still needed in this ecosystem that already exist on other chains that somebody could come in and just get the first mover advantage and essentially like corner out that piece of the blockchain for themselves. And I don't understand why they're not just pouring in.
Yeah, like needing an Oracle or a better blockchain explorer. I think there's definitely a lot of untapped potential here. Actually, this goes towards how, one of the greatest things about PulseChain is the community itself. It's so crazy to see that we've had almost zero involvement from Richard Hart, right? Basically pulling off a Satoshi. I don't blame him because obviously the SEC stuff. But in that meantime, we had community-made sites and services like GoPulse, right? Petius, the aggregator. You have even PulseSwap, another aggregator, and then you have Pulse Coin List. Like a bunch of these, even V3, like bringing in the V3 front end with 9-inch and 9mm. So it's really exciting stuff. We've actually done a lot on our own.
Yeah, and I think that's how DeFi is supposed to be. Like, obviously, you have a founder and kind of the person that steers the ship in terms of the one everybody looks up to, and then it's up to us to all carry the torch in our own way, whatever that means for us personally, to help this succeed.
Exactly.
Well, speaking of that and success and the continuation of winning, what do you guys want to get into as far as the technicals go? Like, what, liquidity? Why are we running out of HEX? Why is it dwindling? Why, what are some interesting stats around like why stop crying, more buying type of attitude? Financial advice.
Yeah, sure. I can if Khaled wants to share, I can pull up some stuff right after, because I'm honestly still pulling up some stuff in the background. So yeah, if Khaled wants to start off with some heat, that'd be great.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, just looking at the liquidity, just by looking at the V1 liquidity that you have with PHEX on Dex Screener, you can see that we have, I think, around 800. Yeah, it even shows it right there, 890 million pooled HEX on the left right there, and that number has been reducing. Actually, there's another website that I really like to use. It's called lookintomaxi.com, and it shows the two graphs. I'll quickly put that in the chat. Actually, it shows the number of pooled HEX and the price of HEX, because there's a correlation, and this is what Richard Hart talks a lot. Yeah, it's actually app.lookinto maxi.com/liquidity. /liquidity, yeah. And then you'll see it actually shows what Richard Hart, this one exactly, it shows what Richard Hart talks a lot about, which is how the chart moves in squares. And you can see that white line right there. It says that it's the total PHEX liquidity, so the pooled PHEX, and you can see that it's been slowly declining. So there's less PHEX available to buy, right? So now, which is around 830 right now, you can imagine that there's only a possible 830 people are able to buy 1 million PHEX, and that is it. Like, you know what I mean? It's going to become more and more scarce.
That's wild.
Yeah, it was. I think right now it's around what $10,000 for 1 million. And yeah, basically which talks about how it moves in squares, is that if you have the number of the pooled hex, so that's the ask side, you effectively have to double the bid side, which is part of the Uniswap formula, X times Y is equal to K, the constant product formula. So to rebalance it, the price has to 4x, like has to move in a square. So, sometimes before actually looking at, price goes up, you can look at, different precursors that happen, which is, people pulling off liquidity because of course they don't want to fall into the impermanent loss. And as well, in general, people buying up more PHEX, making it more scarce. And this is obviously not even tapping into what is the percentage of people staking their hex, where that's taking it out of circulation. So, it's very cool stuff here.
What if somebody bought up 837 million hex, or however much, and just staked it for 5,555? Oh, somebody make my day today. That would just be all the hex on the market just goes into a 15-year stake, and we're like, all right, let's go time.
I think the price would go to infinity after that, man.
It would be they would be begging people to add more liquidity because like, whoa, that just happened, and then yeah, like that'd be amazing. We can dream sometimes, but you never know.
I wonder if this correlates to what I noticed today with the price volatility. Like, I noticed that everything dumped pretty equally, and then HEX wicked up really hard when PLS and PLSX are still down pretty bad from the dump.
I mean, yeah, that is a good question. I think there could be a lot of, hidden behind the scenes movements. I think people also anticipate for, the liquidity of PHEX or even the other core tokens to be pulled slightly or taken away, so that obviously the pump effect is much easier. So it requires less capital, because obviously liquidity is kind of a double-edged sword. The thicker liquidity that you have, it makes it heavier. It requires more capital for it to now pump. So that could be one of those signs where, either it's regular people pulling off their liquidity, or it could be the V1 liquidity being pulled off, which is a sign.
Yeah, because I feel like these tickers usually travel somewhat together, correlated, and this time it's different. Like, the other charts are still down pretty bad, and HEX kind of rebounded and almost recovered.
Yeah, that's a good point. I'm actually up, I think, 2x from the all-time low with PHEX, and even with EHEX, I'm up 1x. So it's actually not bad.
Right. It was at one point when I first got here. I think it was up like 7x, right?
Yeah. That's nothing. We're not even in altcoin like prime season times.
Not at all. I did I went back and I mapped out the whole Bitcoin chart for like post halving how many days till the top, and I think it was like something like 535 days. So essentially every time it's been in Q4 of the following year after the halving.
That lines up with what usually I think of, because what I also figured is that usually with every bull run there's two peaks, not necessarily with Bitcoin, but maybe with the altcoins. And yeah, that second peak that I believe will be way higher than the first peak, because I think right now we have a lot of non-believers listening to the top influencers saying, oh, we're going to have our first peak, or even the bull run going to end in March. So now you'll have the non-believers, the retail investors trying to front run that, probably going to sell sooner than that. And that's why I think we'll have a second higher peak, because of the fact that we've watched out those non-believers that are going to probably sell on a 2x.
Yeah, I think we're just getting started.
I just simply removed the zero, by the way, on hexcalc.net, able to look at your earnings with staking and your amount of hexes, and based on current price and future, you can do a little prediction, put it whatever you want. I just removed the zero from the 013 and made it 013. Anybody interested in taking 13K and making 130K? If we just get just a 10x, just 10x. You're talking about 7x, not enough. 10x, not enough. This ecosystem wants 100x. Imagine, even just staking it. I just put 369. You put whatever you want in there, but
it's a nice
you stake it. Yeah, and you get bigger pays better, longer pays better bonuses. You get T-shares. You get and then it could, again, this is just a prediction engine. turn into these numbers. Wouldn't that be nice? Getting paid for holding and paid for having a good product, and getting a share of the ecosystem. It's almost like a dividend. It's almost like being in the ecosystem is kind of like your own social, not just social, it's like this. It makes me think of this dividends model, like you get paid dividends by even being a part of it because you have access to the knowledge, you have access to the people. And then with that knowledge, you can make your choices to invest or do as you like. So that's it's a pretty cool place, I think so. Colin, you got some stuff?
Yeah, I'll start with the chart here. Because I know Shill was talking a little bit about how Hex is holding up so well, especially compared to some of the other cores on PulseChain. I like watching these ratio charts. I'm sure you do as well, Shill, and Khaled and stuff as well. But yeah, I like to watch these ratio charts, especially for anyone watching, because you can kind of see how one asset or another is performing relative to the actual core token, or the layer 1 token, which in this case is PulseChain, right? I always say to people, like, you shouldn't be operating prices in a vacuum, especially in a vacuum of like US dollars, because when we're looking at prices in cryptocurrency, especially when it's like a Hex WPLS pair, this US dollar price is derived. I think the real price of this pair is this ratio, which is the actual pairing between Hex and PLS, right? And then you can calculate the price of PLS, which will kind of derive you the price of Hex as well through this ratio. But I think we have a little bit of a different system now with PulseChain than we did with Hex on Ethereum when it was native to Ethereum, because when we had Hex on Ethereum, I'll say a majority of that, or I don't even know if it was a majority, I think it was even less than a majority, but I'll say a good chunk of the liquidity for like native Hex on Ethereum, when it was just no PulseChain, just Hex on Ethereum, was USDC denominated, meaning that if you were to operate looking at the price in terms of US dollar, it's probably one of the best ways to look at it when you have all these US dollar pairings in terms of cryptos. But when you have this entire ecosystem like PulseChain, you want to make sure to be taking a look at some of these ratios and stuff, because you can see how one asset is performing over another. But yeah, Hex, as of recently, it has, since December, it has had a little bit of a retracement, but you can actually see it's been performing quite well, even if you were able to kind of catch this pump here, which wasn't really anything crazy, but that's plus 75% on your PLS right now. I don't know if it's going to if it's going to make a bottom here and kind of go on to make new all-time highs in the ratio, but if it does, like, you're talking like plus 60% on your PLS. So I think this is one thing about Hex as well, when we're talking about ratios and one token holding up versus another, is sometimes I think Hex is kind of like your Bitcoin, right? And you might have, and we've seen this happen before actually, where you have kind of Hex kind of lead the way a little bit, and you have it take charge for a little bit, and kind of have this initial pump. And eHex used to do this a lot, kind of early days, where it would kind of spark a pump into the ecosystem. And a lot of those funds, or at least some of those funds, will or could trickle out into some of the other ecosystems into the PulseChain as well. So yeah, it kind of adds this like cascading effect where like this liquidity pool is large, right? So you can take out quite a bit of funds, let's say, out of this liquidity pool, and then you could go into another ecosystem on PulseChain and then perhaps inject that one, and it'll make the like percent gains look like a lot higher, right? But it's like that same chunk of liquidity. So I think this is one thing with Hex as well. When you're taking a look at PLS, it's a little bit more, it's heavier, right? Like, I think last time I was really doing the math on it, it's like $60 million of liquidity roughly across majority of its like most liquid pairs. And it might be a little bit different now that we've had some volatility with the price and stuff, and you probably had people adding liquidity, removing liquidity, and the price has moved around, which is also going to change the liquidity value itself a little bit as well. But yeah, kind of I think what we'll see with Hex and what we've seen with PulseChain as well with some of these tickers is if you watch the total, if you look at the total liquidity on PulseX, you can actually see some of the charts, some of the US dollar price charts will kind of resemble that total liquidity chart over on PulseX. And I'll pull up pull up a few different stats as well. But if you guys have any topics as well, you guys want to bring up real quick as well, I might quickly bring up some stuff here. So
I mean, yeah, I have a question for you guys. What do you think of EHEX?
Here we go.
that's a tricky one, man.
I feel like this comes up every week, every time I'm on a stream.
Chill, you attract the EHEX questions.
I guess. Well, all right. So I have a more unique perspective, I think, because I'm a newcomer, and obviously I have a traditional crypto background. So, like, to me, it was very confusing and it didn't make sense. I get that people are attached to it, and it was the first of the things that Richard created. But as I'm sure you guys all know, like, usually when you migrate a token to a new chain, the old contract becomes the old contract and it kind of ceases to exist. Like, everybody just agrees, like, okay, we're on the new contract now. But that's not the case with what happened here. And it creates a lot of confusion, I think, to new onboards who maybe wandered into the ecosystem and didn't have somebody holding their hand. Because I pointed out in a tweet, like, it doesn't confuse me because I've been here a while, but like when you go to somewhere like CoinMarketCap, which most noob traders go to, they look and they see, okay, HEX, like the one that says HEX, HEX, is EHEX. And then the one that says HEX and PulseChain in parentheses with a weird color logo around the main logo, like they look at that and they go, oh, that must not be the real thing. I want the HEX. Like, that's what I came for. So I feel like there's a lot of confusion there. And then the other thing that I always point out is that it's kind of dividing up your buying power. Like, now you have all the core tokens that you're splitting buying power between. And you have guys that like Ink, and you have guys that like PLSX and PLS. But then you also additionally have two forms of HEX. But I think other people make the argument that they could reach parity somehow, and it would all just be the same HEX, just on two different chains. But I haven't heard somebody give me a concrete explanation of how that's going to happen.
I think in the early days, parity was more entertainable. But again, after, the founder talks about wanting things to go more towards PulseChain and PulseChain assets, and the market having did what the market has done as far as ratios stuff go, again, they can get farther. They can get more together, farther apart, and all that stuff. The ratios can be volatile, all that for now at least too. But I just think that green candles kind of give people a map of what to do. It doesn't make them see straight, but it can give them a map of what to do. So when they start seeing PulseChain take off, they start seeing, again, maybe EHEX gets a free ride. A quote from one of RH's tweets too. I think they'll decide like what opportunities are there, but it's definitely more confusing for onboarding. I definitely agree.
The amount of people
going away, I'll say that.
The amount of people that have attacked me, showing me the EHEX chart, laughing at me, saying, why are you supporting this thing? Look how terrible the chart looks. And I have to say, like, that's not the right chart. Like, it's just, there's massive confusion amongst the normies.
It is an awkward conversation starter of like, haha, I'm gonna get you. Here's your bad chart, or what perceived to be a bad chart at least. Well, I guess, I don't know. Again, over time. Anyways, and then you got to be like, no, that's not the right chart, and then you probably just lost them at that point. So, yeah, it's but at least they didn't win, I guess. I don't know. It is.
Yeah, they ended up looking dumb, but in the end, I feel like it's hampering, like holding back the ecosystem, or at least HEX, because, and even PulseChain though, like that's the weird thing. I typed the other day, I was gonna make a tweet and a video about this. I typed in PulseChain, and you literally have to type in the whole word. I can't remember if it was CoinGecko or CoinMarketCap that I was using, And like, you know how like autofill, like autocorrect, it'll literally just like you could type PUL and PulseChain will pop up. I had to literally type in the whole word to get it to come up.
Just to add to that,
It's
by
the
the way,
gatekeeping.
Yeah.
exactly. Because actually, with CoinMarketCap, there's a renewed like class action lawsuit against CoinMarketCap, which is owned by Binance, because they have actually been de-ranking HEX in the previous bull run. Because right now, if you look at PulseChain, or even if you typed HEX, the one on the one from PulseChain, it ranks it at like 3,000, which
crazy.
is definitely incorrect. Because by chain TVL, we're actually around like top 7 chains by total value locked. Same thing with if you look at the actual PHEX market cap with OA, including OA, let's say it's at 8 billion, that should put us around top 15 total cryptos in ranking, which again, CoinMarketCap gets that incredibly wrong. And you mentioned CoinGecko. If you looked at PulseChain on CoinGecko, the only tag, which by the way, if you look at Ethereum, it'll put like ERC20, DeFi, layer 1 solution, whatever, right? But with PulseChain, if you look at CoinGecko, the only tag it has, the metadata tag, is a alleged securities asset. Like, this is the problem with the centralization. And you mentioned a very good point about how it's educating the normies, right? Because now they're going to type HEX. Oh, check out HEX. Okay, they're going to type HEX. The first one that shows up is the older one, the legacy HEX. They're going to see the bad 99% drop, and it's going to discourage them. They're going to say, oh, it's a scam. And I think, there needs to be a clearer way of educating people. This is the only issue, man, with like relying on these centralized, data centers like CoinMarketCap, really.
I will say it looks a little better than before, because when you type in HEX, I assume it's ranking it by market cap. It does show PulseChain HEX as the first one, at least on this. And also it has the SEC scan, which also shows liquidity for PulseChain HEX first instead of Ethereum. So I'm actually a little surprised. It does sort by that. I guess as long as the market cap is bigger, they'll see that first. So maybe that's interesting.
I feel like to somebody that doesn't know what PulseChain means, which is most people that aren't into this, like we all understand it because we're in this now and we get like all the meta and everything. But like for somebody brand new just stumbling across it saying like, oh, I heard about HEX today, I'm going to type in HEX, and then they go to the one that says HEX, like that seems like it follows logic to me.
I think they should rename the like EHEX on CoinMarketCap. They should call it Legacy HEX, and then the PHEX they should just call it HEX.
That's what that's my point.
Yeah.
Well, I would say if I were gonna, I would say, put like HEX and an Ethereum in parentheses, and then just leave that one HEX, right? And then if they don't need to know it's in PulseChain. Yeah, that's what I would probably vote for.
Yeah, like even if you just switch them, right? Like you just said, like if you put the parentheses after EHEX and then had PulseChain HEX just be HEX, like that, I feel like is much less confusing.
And what I think the other confusing part is when people look at it, they probably like, oh, they migrated to PulseChain, whatever that thing is. But then is it a migration? Like it's like this decentralized migration that some people choose to go towards and some people don't. So that's what we got.
Well, yeah, I mean, like
Green
back in the day,
a lot of things, so, like I said,
I know this wasn't Richard's initial intention, but back in the day, like ERC20 tokens were essentially placeholders until they could build out their own blockchain, and then they'd migrate over with whatever blockchain they built. So that's essentially what happened here. It's just Richard didn't give like a clear decree like, hey guys, we're migrating, the old contract's dead. Like obviously it still works, it didn't fail, but we've moved to our own blockchain now.
Well, there is a clip of me asking Richard this exact question on stream like 2 or 3 years ago. Oh, wow. Y'all can watch it at your own pleasure. I don't have audio on this, but literally, funny enough, like I asked this question. That was just the question that I had time to ask at the time when it came up about this, and his answer was no, it is not a migration. And then of course afterwards it was like, well, it's maybe it changes its mind sometimes and things change based on whatever too. But at the time, at least, there was a direct answer of no, not a migration.
What do you? All right, here's a better question that I haven't been able to ask or get an answer to. What do you think his intention was with stating that it wasn't a migration? Like what benefit is there to splitting the buying power, splitting the chain, like all that?
I think at the time, at least, he wanted, again, this is pure speculation, he wanted the market to decide. He wanted to see how PulseChain, not that he had any doubts about PulseChain, but he wanted things to be figured out by the market. So he didn't want to say anything. He didn't want to call it at first. He didn't want to, have any influence until at whatever point he decided to. And then that's when he said, okay, it looks like the market's decided. And that's a tweet or two. That's my speculation. Again, it's not the best way to doing it. You can criticize and like we can say, oh, why not just know from the beginning? But I think he kind of does fit the profile of doing things over time and kind of letting the community decide, I guess. It's probably not very satisfying, but that's probably one of the answers I would come up with.
One of the more exciting theories and why, I hold a little bit of EHEX, not as much as PHEX in terms of value, because obviously the fact that it basically feels abandoned. But one of the things is actually it has way lower liquidity. So again, it goes back to the fact that, lower liquidity requires less capital to pump. I think right now it has around 500,000 in total liquidity. But the more exciting theories is actually people mentioning, what if Richard Hart exposes EHEX to the sacrifice funds and does a buyback to EHEX? That's exciting.
Yeah, I also heard there's less stakers, so you're getting more rewards.
It's definitely less incentive. I mean, this is like the topic of like, why would anyone buy Ethereum HEX anymore? It's like, well, I don't think whales care about gas fees, first of all. So it could just turn into all of your smaller stakes go on PulseChain. And if you believe in EHEX and think it has future or think it's a good deal or whatever it is, then especially whales, maybe they scoop up supply at low price levels, stake it. Again, they don't care to pay a 10% gas fee or whatever it is to unstake it at that point. I don't know. There's so many different ways to look at it. It's really hard to be objective with it, but it really is just this. What do you prefer? Which is, again, that freedom. Everyone has free to choose and put their money wherever they want. And it's never going to be, I don't think we're ever going to get to a point where everyone's going to say, okay, EHEX is dead. Because there's so much built up capital that aligns people to be like,
too many people. Yeah,
I want to make more money, so I'm going to keep doing this. And like, why not? I can convince myself to do that type of thing.
Well, back in the day, right? Like Ethereum Classic was a heavy hitter for a while. Like it was right up there. It wasn't the same, like it wasn't as big as ETH, but it was in the top 10 or top 20, if I remember correctly. And it stayed there for a while and it would pump and everything. Like it's not an apples to apples comparison, but it definitely was the old version or the original version.
Do you all think over time it will? I think I would speculate over time the ratio will. I don't think HEX will go to zero ever.
No.
I think a ratio will solidify over time. It'll be a stable ratio over time, but I don't think we're anywhere near that if I were to just purely speculate. What do you all think?
I think we're 1 to 5 right now, roughly. EHEX to PHEX or PHEX to EHEX.
It used to be like 1 to 10 or 1 to 12. So I think this whole volatility we're experiencing across the crypto market, across PulseChain ecosystem, all that stuff, that's kind of built into the ratio. I imagine there's a correlation with that too. But again, I think over time it'll solidify. But I don't think it's going to zero. So,
no, I mean people are still trading FTT, like
Luna, all the ones that actually have no reason to not be zero type of stuff. And with EHEX, again, same code is still useful. It's just more expensive and not part of PulseChain, but it has that nostalgia feeling. It has that build up capital from people investing in it. And it is, I mean, people say even it's a backup plan in case PulseChain dies for whatever, come out the 10 imaginary horribles you can think of for PulseChain dying. It is the backup HEX. And it's like, well, our time's going to be that great where you think the money is going to flow back to that way, or is it going to go to another product if that catastrophe would ever happen? There's like, I don't know. I think there's some, I don't know how interesting those arguments are either.
You know what we need? HEX on Cardano.
Well, if maybe we can talk to the founder about it and see if he's interested in partnership. You know?
Dude, if
We'll
somebody
make the smart
managed
contracts for Cardano and deploy Hex on there.
that would be the ultimate troll if somebody pulled that off.
It'll be the longest. Like if Hex ever died, the last version, everyone make sure it will only exist on Cardano. That'd be funny. No, we should not troll Mr. Dr. Hodgkinson. Is he a doctor? I'm not sure, but maybe he'll come back around one day. Maybe he'll come back around. Let's see. Dr. Kong, though, what you got?
I was just gonna say some things. I want to play devil's advocate. I have no idea about EHEX. I think I could probably make arguments for reasons why it might pump, or like you might even see it like maybe one day hit parity. I don't know if it would. I don't know if it could. I don't know if it can. But I think you could have a turn of events, perhaps. Would it like? It's not like what I'd tell people is, unless you really know what you're doing with EHEX, I would probably just buy the PHEX. Like EHEX is like, you should have a specific use case in your head for why you're, doing that instead of PHEX, let's say. But if I was to play devil's advocate, what I would say is Richard's main argument for why I guess EHEX is bad is because you have network fees that are being paid out to Ethereum validators that, number one, isn't economic energy being injected into the hex price. So like, let's say I have like 0.1 ETH, or let's say I have 0.01 ETH, right? And I want to buy hex on Ethereum, and I go and do a swap, and the GUI is kind of crazy, let's say, and I end up paying, I don't know what the ETH price is. I think that might be like $300 of Ethereum. I think that might even be like $30 of Ethereum or something like this. So like maybe the gas fee is like 15 or something like that. And now all of a sudden, like I've pretty much spent half of my funds on the gas for the transaction. And now I also would need to get more gas if or when I want to sell out of it. So what I would say is that if Ethereum can get the fees kind of under control one day, I could see a reason like similar to PulseChain. I don't fully think just because if Ethereum gets its fees under control, that these two like hexes would immediately kind of become 1-to-1. But I think it could be almost like a meme factor in a sense, where if we're taking a look at PHEX, right, and we talked about this with PHEX relative to Pulse. So Pulse like $60 million in liquidity versus Hex is maybe $20 to $30 million in liquidity, right? So even relative like Pulse to Hex, Hex is easier to pump. And then when you're talking about EHEX, right? If maybe one day Ethereum gets its fees under control, and then maybe let's say Richard Hart tweets and he says, you know what? Like let's in this imaginary world, Ethereum transactions cost just as much as PulseChain transactions. Let's say, then maybe, who knows? Maybe Richard, he puts out a tweet saying EHEX is viable. Like you can end your stakes on EHEX. Everything like kind of works as intended on EHEX, and it's not kind of a problem if you want to stake and stuff. With the low liquidity and perhaps like some sort of meme factor on top of that, plus the fact that they're both technically like they're not the code isn't any different on any, like it's just, I think it's mostly like the human perception of whichever one has value, right? And we know like in crypto especially, like usually like you could build out the best fundamental, like whatever platform that solves everybody's problem that they needed to be solved, but it's not going to perform as good as dog shit coin, let's say, right? So
Dog with shit.
It is what, yeah, dog with shit coin. So it's just not going to perform as good as that coin, which is an unfortunate reality, but I think that is the reality. So maybe there is like some sort of time and place where like turn of events where even I wouldn't be surprised if there's even some sort of meme factor which brings this coin kind of up more. And then even if I was to put more like technical analysis, because that is pretty much what I was saying, is pretty much all speculation, right? Like I pretty much just playing devil's advocate for like why EHEX maybe one day, like why I or maybe someone could make the argument for that. But even if you take a look at, this is basically Richard's, let's call it Richard's death tweet, even though that's probably not what you should call it. But the market has decided tweet. You can call it that. You can see the price. Like
MHT market has decided.
Yeah,
Or
the market has
MHD.
decided.
Yeah.
Yeah, the market pretty much recovered and actually made kind of a new kind of not really a new all-time high, but kind of a new kind of local high relative to where that price was before. So technically speaking, it's quite interesting. Like people like they bought it up and they did bid it up pretty, like you can see plus 500%. And keep in mind, we're looking at this in terms of the PLS pair, right? So yeah, if you were buying down here, you pretty much like you could have made out on a profit on EHEX relative to like that PLS pairing. So I would say, like, technically speaking, like I think this to me, it kind of shows that there probably is going to be some sort of value, or like there has to be, like, of course there's going to be some sort of ratio attached to like EHEX and PHEX and Pulse and all these things. But I think there might be a meme factor one day, and I don't know if I don't know if it would be the same sort of like I don't know if it'd be with the same sort of intentions that we have with like PX of like stake, like kind of what HEX kind of stands for in that sort of sense. But yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if there's some sort of mean factor combined with the low liquidity, combined with some other external factors, which could maybe push HEX up to like kind of new levels, right? And like I said, we've even seen it here. I think this to me is extremely impressive that it recovered this kind of tweet, right? Because that kind of like the market decided that now, like it took back all that negative energy, right? So that to me is very interesting. Is what I'll say as well.
Talking about the energy though, did a lot of it go into HEX or was it sold off? Do you all remember? Did it go into PulseChain HEX? I mean,
I think a lot of it tried to move from EHEX, and then PX was pumping on that day. I think there was like pretty much a shift, right, in that percent. And then we kind of like after that had like kind of a bear market in PulseChain and kind of across the board. But yeah, on that day, like there kind of was a migration. That is a good point to bring up as well, Max, because it wasn't just like everything, like all of our pockets got emptied or anything like that. Like I don't think so. Right? Maybe if you were just 100%
sold off for
portfolio,
other stuff,
right.
Into it.
But yeah, like as I remember, I think there was like a little bit of kind of a migration into PHEX as well. But yeah, this to me is it's interesting, right? Like if this was truly dead, I think it should have. I think technically, like just looking at the chart, it should have never really recovered. This market has decided, but it did. So I think that's interesting.
Every time we say market decided, I hear somebody saying the market has decided in that voice. I always hear him saying it. Go ahead.
I was going to say, just a fun fact. The Tropa dev, you guys know the rocket scientist, the guy who's doxed, he predicts a 1-to-1 EHEX to PHEX parity.
Okay. There are some people like thinking it's going to get still parity. I think after it launched and after market decided tweet and all that stuff, I don't know. I don't have a lot of faith in parity. I think like I said, I think the ratio will stabilize, but if it went to parity, it would be, I don't know. That's almost like we're getting to HEX 2.0 territory, which was a speculation before.
I thought we had parity again, like not too long ago, if I remember correctly, or it was at least very, very close to parity.
It was pretty close. I think we touched it. I think after PulseChain launched, we touched parity, or even EHEX might have went over a little bit, and then maybe somewhat recently, maybe the last few months or so. I'm not sure, but again, it's kind of I don't know. Again, it's what happens with now that stuff happened, that even changed icosahedron stuff like that. The whole ability to swap between the two over chain, not to worry about it. Is that going to play a factor in being closer to parity one day? I don't know. I think it's a long shot. The HEX.
That's a good point as well.
But there are community products that could push it more towards that way.
If you guys also remember, I think you kind of reminded me of like just the technology behind Giffordware and how
Mhm.
maybe it even wasn't so much the technology, but even that kind of like spark and that narrative, that kind of like you had a product that people use, and it probably contributed. I think you had Icosa reach the ceiling price, right? Is kind of the point I'm getting at here, in terms of iBurn.
Yeah.
So
Restarted the flywheel.
yeah, who knows? Like if there's some sort of something that somebody builds that incentivizes people to actually move these things closer together. So I thought of that as well.
What's the largest Ethereum fee you've ever paid? Y'all inspired me to tweet this just now. I don't want to taint the poll, so chat, give me an answer. Well, we got several hundred people apparently listening, or at least that's what my counter says. I'm going with it. $50 or less, $100 to 500, 500 to 1,000, more than $1,000. I gotta say, I may have paid a few $100 for Ethereum fee before, maybe a couple of years ago when it was
Yeah,
going.
it was like
You know,
300
2-3 years
something
ago.
for me.
Crazy. Chat, give me an answer, and I'll click the button. Don't make me do the elevator music. Don't make me do it. I can do it. Chat. Come on, chat. There we go. Boom. Locato won the day. 500. Wow. Imagine paying that much just to get a transaction. I mean, sometimes, again, if you're a whale and you're trying to make a trade and the network's congested, you're like, I don't care. But if you're just a regular person, you got a 10, 20K portfolio, $1,000 portfolio, whatever. If you're spending 50% of your portfolio, somehow you have to even sell coins. If you have to sell coins to make a trade, that's rough, man. That's rough. PulseChain.com solves this. Crazy.
Yeah,
I just did it. More than $1,000. More than one person. I imagine probably 10 or 20 people that did more than $1,000 are going to see this poll as well. Gotcha.
it was usually a speculative thing, right? Like if it was something newer that launched and you thought it was gonna do like a 50x and you were throwing in like $5,000 or whatever, paying a $500 transaction fee to make like 250,000. A lot of people were taking those risks, but it was insane. Like that should never have existed.
That's crazy. The other thing too I was going to ask is again, focused on the scarcity of HEX and all this stuff too. What are the pieces that make HEX scarce? We talked about liquidity, so I'm going to look at those numbers. We talked about we talked a little bit about staking, but yeah, what are your guys' thoughts on what makes HEX scarce? We have the inflation model, we have the staking model, we have the burning minting. Do you think just the demand, again, get green candles, we have the momentum that people come to PulseChain, they see the premier products, they see the core coins, they get interested, maybe heavier in those versus some of the other players in the community too. What makes HEX, why are we running out of HEX? Hopefully, why are we going to run out of HEX?
I will say, I don't know if we'll ever, maybe one day we'll run out of HEX in the liquidity pool, but in terms of like the supply and stuff, one thing I find interesting is kind of the truth engine within HEX. So you have the basically, if you tell the smart contract you're going to do something, you have to do it, right? I think this kind of I think that model in HEX to me is it's one of the most interesting things, right? Like even when you have the different penalties and stuff being redistributed from people kind of EESing out early and that being redistributed to the OA who kind of has this track record of never selling, as well as these other stakers who also kind of, at least the stakers, the stakes themselves have a track record. Like those coins can't be sold until the stake's over, right? Whether or not the coins are sold after that, like whatever happens. But yeah, they're like, I think the truth engine in HEX, I think is one of the, I think that's one of the unique parts about it, right? And I think that's what also keeps a lot of the communities, like a lot of the community around, right? Because HEX, I think HEX pumps, right? People, they go back to like, let's see how my stakes are doing, right? And they come back to the community and they kind of get re-involved in it as well. So I think that's another good point as well with HEX is like imagine all these people who've previously onboarded, right? If or when you start to see Hex pick up again, you're going to see, more than likely, you're going to see some sort of positive kind of feedback loop where you have our ecosystem doing well, and then all these people who, probably like they're going to hear about it kind of probably in like a sequences or waves or something like this, where you have the first people who are like, oh, Hex it's coming back, let me see how my stuff's doing. Next people, same thing. Next people, same thing. Next people, same thing. And I think as the price moves higher and higher and higher, you're probably going to have more and more and more people kind of paying attention and coming back to the system, right? Because I think even if you had these people exit, I think you had a fair amount of people leave their stakes alone. And if that is the case, you'll probably, if Hex performs well, you'll probably have them come back into the ecosystem and start to participate again, especially if they see like maybe it's gone on for it's older now, right? Maybe now that it's a few cycles old, maybe it inspires more confidence as well. So
do you think
who
the
knows?
inbox will start blowing up once it does 5x, 10x stuff like that? Then people, you think you'll start getting DMs that just be like, whoa, hey, tell me how to buy this Hex thing again, or like, whoa, hey, I'm back, hey, all that stuff. I'm excited for it.
Definitely. Like, I think even in this last kind of recent little, like I'll say kind of little, right? Like we didn't even really break past the sack rate, and like it wasn't crazy or anything, like, but there's definitely more people interested, right? And even on PulseChain, like there's plenty of good altcoins, right? And whether or not, like, I think there's also plenty of bad altcoins and stuff as well. So you can probably have to pick some good ones and stuff. But I think pretty much kind of the point is there's everything on PulseChain. Like maybe we're missing some GameFi stuff. I think we do have some, but I think maybe there could be more. But like I think we have pretty much we have everything on PulseChain. So I think as the price, as the volume, as everything starts to pick up, and we'll see how those rulings go with the SEC as well. Because I think even with Trump about to get in, with even our ecosystem specifically, with some of the court casings and rulings, I think we might just have like a little bit of some uncertainty in the meantime here until we kind of have some the events, whatever happens, right? Whatever happens in these events kind of play out, and the kind of time pass that we need to kind of pass. So yeah, that's my little spiel.
We haven't even seen the Godwell make splashes yet. So shout out to Godwell. I'd love to see you splash around the ecosystem. Maybe create some massive green candles if you'd like to. No expectations. That would be cool. Time to time.
I mean, I want to ask you guys, what are your price predictions of PHEX? Not financial advice, but friendly advice.
Skip, as I avoid predictions.
That's a good question.
Show?
I always get in trouble for this because people get mad at me for not being bullish enough, but I tend to be more on the conservative side with some of my price predictions. For me, like a realistic, solid target to reach for is like 25 cents. I think that like that's like, I'm not saying that would be the top, but like obviously we know that there's the potential to at least get to 50. But I think just for me, like I like to try to set like lower expectations to begin with, and then if we exceed them, obviously that's great. But I think you've caused a lot of what I was talking about earlier. Like you split a lot of the buying power, right? Initially when Hex did the 10,000x, it was the only thing that Richard Hart had created, and now there's 5 or 6 things, and the whole ecosystem as well, which a lot of people that are into PulseChain love getting into other coins, myself included. So I don't know, like it's definitely possible to make new all-time highs. I don't rule it out, but for me personally, I say like, let's get to 10 cents first. Let's get to 25 cents first. You know what I mean? Like there's
Milestones.
a whole lot of stages that have to be broken through to get to that new all-time high.
So you're saying it's possible that a 10K investment, 13K investment could reach $500,000. That'd be around 50 cents for the price prediction here piece.
Yeah.
That's probably good for a lot of people. A lot of people are like, yeah, I'd like to make $500,000 with not $500,000 invested. A lot of people be happy with that.
The thing that the community, I think, well, I always say the community, but we're talking about a fraction of the community, right? Like the onboarding to this is especially hard because of some of the stances that people in the community and the founder have taken. Like it's kind of put PulseChain on an island that I feel like it doesn't benefit from being on. It's more of like an ideological island, and what you need to get these crazy X's and these crazy price points are as many people as possible flowing into your chain, and being constantly on the attack and going against every influencer possible and just really making enemies however it happened with coin market cap and buying it and whoever it is. Like you've shut off so many routes for people to come into your ecosystem that I worry about that a lot.
Are you saying build bridges metaphorically and
absolutely build blockchain bridges?
Take the money from here and put it over there.
Well, so like that's the thing, right? Like we're all DeFi guys, and we like decentralization, but there is still something to be said for some of the centralized things. Like it is very complicated, especially for somebody that doesn't know what they're doing, to get into the PulseChain ecosystem, and it's also expensive, right? So like what I like to do, and I just did it the other day. There's still a couple exchanges out there that have PLS. Like if I'm trying to get out of PLS, or this would work for coming in, I send it to the exchange, I swap it for USDT, and then I swap that into ETH or whatever else. It ends up costing me almost nothing, and I don't have to sit and wait for 30 minutes on a bridge and then sit and wait, because I was trying to get to base, right? So like I would have had to go from PulseChain to ETH and then from ETH to base. And it's just like, it's very complex to somebody that doesn't like come from this stuff.
That's an interesting argument for centralized exchanges, literally just being the user experience. Yeah, I mean, that's a great explanation of why the user
and volume,
is
right?
different
Like
than centralized exchanges. That's interesting.
The other thing that a lot of people don't think about is all the volume that gets run through by the traders, right? Because if they see something that's making a 20% gain on a consistent basis, they're going to start trading HEX. It's not that they believe in HEX, but they're still going to run money through it, and that helps the numbers look better.
It's a very good point. Yeah.
I feel like I'm looking at a website that got taken down by Interpol or something. It's literally like you cannot access this. Like when they get some website gets rated like some piracy or otherwise, and they put like taken down by or some of our people were more
seized by the FBI.
Yeah, seized by FBI. Yeah.
Here's the thing about the SEC though, right? Like they were taking L's even when Gary was here. Like we were talking about it earlier. Like Ripple, XRP1. The Coinbase, Gary's still technically there. Like that just got paused. And what was the other one that you guys said? Tornado Cash. Yeah. So it's like they haven't been, all these frivolous lawsuits that they've brought were already getting beat when there was massive opposition, and now the tides have changed and we're coming into an administration that's super pro crypto. So I feel like they're probably just gonna throw everything out, which is what Charles said on his stream, except he said they won't throw out HEX because that's a criminal case, which I was like, that's why I ended up making a tweet about it. And I feel like I kind of started the whole firestorm in a sense by doing that. Oops. But like, I couldn't just let that slide because it's like, you're conflating two things. And I felt like he was doing it intentionally.
It's definitely important to make the distinction, and it's I never get why people are not on the side of Richard. just forget about whatever you don't like about him. Think about what
Right.
he's been talking about for 2 years now, about making sure crypto's free, making sure, we're winning
Exactly.
and protecting DeFi. Think about that. How is that not a higher priority than whatever outfit you didn't like to see him in?
Because they're so attached to their disdain for him, for who he is as Richard Hart, the character, that they literally abandon their own principles to lick the boots of government corruption because it means Richard loses, which is insane to me.
It is strange. Well, just one more week apparently to this clock that Kong made. Kong, new website, GaryGallon.Vercel.app. You want to tell us what this means and why we're going to be happy?
Yeah, it's kind of a meme site. Like it's pretty much just a joke, to be honest with you. But I think the rumor is, and I'm just going off the rumors here, but I think Trump's supposed to get rid of Gary. I think sooner rather than later. As I understand, the rumor is his first
On
day.
day one.
Day one.
So yeah, that is the countdown is to the January 20th. I think that's the first day. So we'll see. First day, first minute. That's what we're banking on, right, guys? Like that's our expectations. No, I'm just kidding. But we'll see what happens. Yeah.
Well, didn't he already resign? Like, when does that go into effect?
I think on the inauguration day. Pretty sure.
Okay.
Yeah. He did put.
As long as they don't replace him with someone worse, I think that's worth being excited for, hopefully.
Oh, here it is. It says SEC Chair Gensler to depart agency on January 20th. That's from SEC.gov.
Boom.
There you
Selective
go.
enforcement ending.
There you go.
That's a website.
Selective Enforcement Commission, SEC.
We hope so. Yes.
But I mean, like, I think if I remember correctly, they gave FTX US the go ahead stamp to do whatever they were doing. And then,
Are you saying they selectively chose winners and losers?
No. Government would never do that.
That doesn't sound like them,
my
man.
government agencies. That's weird.
They have
it's not like
ethics there.
Well, yeah, I mean, I can't believe what Zuck said on Rogan recently about how the administration pressured him to do censorship in all kinds of different ways. That's just
What?
out of left field.
No, that's a conspiracy
Never.
theory, man.
Yeah.
Come on.
What are you,
That's what I
Alex
thought.
Jones? Am I on InfoWars right now?
Yeah. I mean, I'm sure
Now
he's
we're
not
on
said everything
InfoWars.
wrong. Yes, I know. I have no commentary on Alex Jones. He has some memes. There's some memes.
He looks good though. I just saw him streaming last night. He looks like he lost a lot of weight.
Been working.
I don't know if he's on Ozempic or something, but definitely slimmed down.
Isn't the entire country, according to the internet? I don't know. We're all here on Ozempic, aren't we? It looks like, I mean, Billy G with that headband definitely has been pumped with iron or Ozempic, one of those. Anyways, everyone, I'm glad we could end it on that. Shout out to I don't want to say shout out to Ozempic. I don't know. I don't want to talk about that. I don't want to talk about it. Let's deviate back. Let's go back. HEX.com, everyone.
We're running out of HEX.
We're running out of HEX. That's what I've been told. Yes, I've been told that. And Shill Gates, what do you want to take us out on, Dr. Shill? It's like Dr. Phil, but Dr. Shill. I just heard that. Man, that's funny.
Everybody, I'm not here to shill anything. Just follow me on Twitter at I'm Shill Gates, and we're running out of HEX, so go buy it fast, like right now.
I like it when you say it. It sounds like an infomercial, but like a very compelling line too.
Yeah, sell me this.
Everyone,
pen.
we're running out of HEX. Please hit that buy button for HEX if you think you want to help contribute to this problem.
HEX is solving the wildfires in California, but you have to click buy.
For only 0.13 cents per HEX, you too can become a HEX kid. Oh, Calo and crypto.
Yeah, really. I'm just optimistic, really. I think the fact that we're in PulseChain, it exists. I think we needed EHEX to exist first, so that then PulseChain becomes a motivation for Richard Hart to create a better solution, more scalable solution for Ethereum. And I believe in PHEX. I think it's going to be a leverage of PDI, which again, that's a whole different thing with the Hyperloop on that side of things, and as well leverage on the sacrifice funds that are long in Ethereum. So that's that as well.
Dr. Kong, what's happening? Everyone's a doctor today. Dr. Khaled, Dr. Shill, Dr. Kong.
DJ Khaled.
I like it. You can have a PhD in DJ, right? That's a thing, maybe.
Professional
PhD.
PhDJ. I like it.
Professional DJ.
Oh, that's a different one though.
That was Kong. He gets all the credit. That was a good one.
No, but no, what I will say is that I'm excited for I'm excited to see what happens. I think getting whatever regulatory clarity that happens with PulseChain will not only be good for PulseChain, will be good for all of crypto as well. I think Richard is the best guy in terms of the worst guy for the SEC to probably target. Like these lawsuits and stuff. I probably wouldn't pick on Richard if I could choose like a sequence of people to target. Probably not Richard. It's not, he would be like if he like, you can kind of see where the SEC is coming from with the watches and diamonds and dancing or whatever. But
come on, guys, we couldn't take down the twerking guy. That guy, we could take down that. Oh, homie, he like loves true DeFi and freedom. He's fighting for a community. He wants to make the world a better place. Why didn't we know that beforehand? Should have done it.
Yeah, I think that's the point, right? You have to like, we here know, you can kind of see, we've watched Richard. We know what his intentions are. He says what his intentions are, right? I think the SEC doesn't know, right? And I think they just see this guy. I think they just see somebody who kind of looks like they're scamming, right, from a distance. So yeah, I think I'm excited to see what will happen. If anyone, like, I don't think it's time to count out PulseChain, right? Like now, I'm thinking now is not the time. I think how I look at it, it is the high risk, high return, right? Kind of maybe it's similar to kind of how XRP was, where probably, I don't know if it was the highest risk, highest return, but you probably had a high risk, high return play when they were dealing with some of their SEC fund, their SEC scares and stuff. And you had, those long-term holders and those long-term believers were probably rewarded the most. So keep that in mind as well, is what I'll say. Not financial advice, but yeah.
The Bitcoin holders who held and had conviction won. The Ethereum holders, name every other successful chain that has longevity and had a huge community of people who wouldn't give up on it. A lot of them won, so I hope we do too. Anyways, that's all we got for you today, everyone. Scivive and 5555. We are out.